Hello everyone, Brand here from HelloKindness. Today I want to talk about what is reincarnation. Basically, I have 4 different areas that I want to share and explore together with you. Number 1, evolutionary process of the soul, spirit, or energy. Number 2, let's reflect on the human progress about in relationship to reincarnation. And number 3, about the universe and balance. And lastly, number 4, the principle of change, that the opportunity for growth. But first, let me just give a general definition of what is reincarnation from the dictionary. Reincarnation is the belief that after death, the soul or consciousness is reborn into a new body. This cycle of birth, death, and rebirth continues until a certain level of spiritual evolution or enlightenment is achieved. And many of the great teachings, such as Hinduism and Buddhism, they all have an in-depth teaching about what is reincarnation. But today, like I said, I want to use different angles to talk about and to explore about reincarnation. So first, let's talk about like the evolutionary process of the soul, spirit, and energy. When we think about it in terms of energy evolution, I want to raise the question that, or we can explore together, that I think the universe is very special. It doesn't really let any energy goes into waste, right? Energy only transforms into different forms, different ways, or even different dimensions. When you, in general, just think about it like that, the question I just have, or the point that I just made. If energy continues into different forms, so what happens to our energy in this current life from our passing? When we reach the point that our body in this physical form goes to death, where does that energy go? Because of the principle that I just mentioned, that in this universe, energy doesn't really go into waste, it transforms. So that's the question that we should think about. Where does that energy go? Another point that I want to make is energy usually attracts to the same type of energy. Well, we can put an example. Think about on the same spectrum, same type of category of energy. Think about love and think about hate. So if your life is dominated by the energy of love rather than hate, so where does that energy of love that you possess goes by the time that your life ends in this physical form? And if you are predominated by the energy hate in this life, where does this energy goes? So going back to the theory or the point that if energy attracts to the same type of energy, and if love is calibrated at a higher level, or what we call life supporting, then typically this energy will seek the same type of energy in the next life or in the next form, or when it is being reincarnated. And if this energy is hate and is calibrated at a lower level, or what we call life depriving, then that energy will be limited or only knows how to find the similar type of energy level and when it is reincarnated. So think about that. I just want to explore that topic and then give you this question that you can contemplate about, because I think it is interesting to put some thoughts to it. And does this raise the question that we are responsible with how we calibrate our energy level? Okay. Because this implies that our energy will continue to be reincarnated into future lives, whatever they may be, right? And here's another question related to this evolutionary process. Could it be that the purpose of humanity is to evolve to a higher level of consciousness, and that this evolution requires more than one lifetime to achieve? Think about it. If our purpose, like this questions ask, is that in terms of the whole humanity, like in the human civilizations, how we evolve, would that be a purpose, or one of the purposes, at least when you think about it, that we are continuing to evolve at a more and more life supporting level? Does that make sense to you? Is that something that you want to contemplate? If it is, are we seeing the progress with in our current society? And looking back in history in comparison, at this point, have we made any progress? And this goes into my second point that I mentioned in the beginning, reflecting on the human progress. When we look back at the history of humanity, can we see signs of progress in our collective consciousness? So we think about it as a whole, the human race, collective consciousness. Can we honestly answer this question? And I can share my opinion is that I think we do. We have seen progress from the thousands of recorded histories that we're limited to. And when we go back to the historian studies that goes back beyond the written 5,000 years histories or so, I believe we have made progress. And I'll throw some examples. Think about the human rights. Just within the United States, I think we have seen in the very short histories of like a few hundred years, we have seen the human rights have been progressed from what we don't have in the past, such as certain women's rights, to now. And I think there are many ups and downs, but when we put it in context of like the long histories of our human race, there are many examples showing that we have made progress. It doesn't mean that when we look at it, it doesn't mean that it will go a very straight lines. Rather, I think it always goes like in cycles. Okay. And when we think about the longer cycles, it is kind of evolving to a higher level of consciousness. How about the increasing awareness of mental health? I mean, think about a lot of the greatest teachings are available from thousands of years. But when we compare in general our collective consciousness, our collective awareness and interest into mental health awareness, I think when we just simply compare 100 years ago to now, I think a lot more people like you and me are more interested in this type of topic. That's why we're talking about what is reincarnation. This is why I'm making this video today about throwing questions for us to explore, for us to contemplate. Is this something that we want to devote more time because we want to collectively achieve a higher level of consciousness? And reincarnation is one of the topics that I think many people have interest in. So I think there are many evidence that we are improving our collective consciousness. But again, I think the point is it is happening very slowly, and it is also happening in a way that is not in a straight line. So this is something that we must put into consideration when we look at the things around us. Because as the human nature, I think it is very easy that we just look at, especially when we're not mindful, we tend to look at a lot of the negative things that are happening around us. But sometimes we forget to really appreciate the so many progress that we have made so far. And lastly, this question for you to think about is, if we see progress over thousands of years, does that mean that the evolution of consciousness might be a long-term, continuous process until that maybe possibly a majority of us reach to a point that is closer and closer to enlightenment, closer and closer to full awareness and consciousness? So that is something for us to think about. The next point that I want to make is about the universe and balance. So how does that relate to reincarnation? Think about this. Do you believe that our universe has an inherent balance, a way of maintaining fairness and harmony? Okay, so let's think about this question that I just posted. So if the universe works in its way to achieve balance, so does that mean our past actions and experiences will continue to impact our current lives and even future lives? Because if it doesn't, where is the accountability, right? So in a lot of the teachings, it talks about, especially related to reincarnation, is the term karma. So what is karma? So karma implies that our past actions, thoughts, experiences have an impact and is a big reason of what we are experiencing right now. Because this implies a balance. This implies a way of accountability. Okay, and it also ties back when you think about it. If our current life, we dominantly calibrate at a certain level, okay, in terms of energy level, love versus hate, where you lead your current life with love, or you lead your life with hate, and let's say two persons end their life at the same time, and then if there is no karma or no accountability, then it implies that everything ends there. But if the world and the universe has its own way to balance itself to reach a harmony, then it must implies that these energies do not end there. It's not being wasted, where I touched that in point number 1 in the very beginning. So these energies will be transformed and will continue in its own path because it's not being wasted. And then if there's a balance, this means karma in that way, in that concept, is implied there. So we have to think about that, right? So I personally do believe there is a connection there. So if that implies that karma exists, some form of reincarnation exists, or our energy doesn't go into waste, it will continue into different forms, or there are different ways that we, within our current human capacity, don't fully understand. But there is an aspect of being a continuality moving forward. May not be a straight line. It could be, in different ways that we don't know, but we know there is a continuality, like I just mentioned. Then I want to talk about the last point that I have here, the principle of change, the opportunity for growth, or you can think about the opportunity for being responsible for your past karma. Because think about it, the principle of change, meaning that, for example, in the Buddhist teaching, it emphasized that the only constant in life is change, meaning that change is the constant, where change sometimes makes us feel uncomfortable, but at the same time, it is because we have the privilege, we have the opportunity to change, so that we have hope. I think this, I will repeat this again. It is because of the element of change, this gives us hope. Because think about it, if there's no opportunity for change, any past karma that leads into this current reincarnation, if we don't have the opportunity to change, we are always stuck by what we have done in the past, or we are always stuck with the energy that we possess from the past. That seems very sad to me, right? And because that we have the opportunity to change for growth or for whatever reason, that gives us hope. That also gives us accountability when we look past one current life, if that makes sense to you. So while past karma or energies may influence us, change is the only constant in life that I just mentioned. Okay, so think about it. Presuming there is some form of reincarnation, okay, for a person that, let's say, we see is totally unresponsible, and then they end their life with a long life, but let's say they live their life in predominantly with the energy of hate. Since it doesn't end there, whatever ways that we feel, or whatever dimensions that we see that person's being reincarnated, accountability follows. Okay, so when you think about it that way, so whatever energy that he or she possessed, okay, continue on next life, that's the opportunity for it to change. It might be continue to change on a downward spiral, who knows. So, or maybe if not, maybe there is an opportunity to change in a more life supporting way. Whatever that it is, maybe it is the chance for change, and that's the beauty of it. And again, for the person who, let's say, dominantly have the energy of love and then ends its life, the next life may be, or the next form of reincarnation is the opportunity for a more life supporting growth. We talked about in the beginning that if reincarnation implies that it's a continuous process of reaching a higher level of consciousness, okay, so we can think about what is a higher consciousness level other than love. Maybe a more unconditional love, okay, maybe more wisdom, and or even something that surpasses our current human capacity of inner peace, enlightenment, and etc. So it is a very slow and gradual process, and at the same time, since it is change is the only constant of life, there's no guarantee that because your past karma leads to current life that maybe it is filled with positive energy, but because of the concept that change is the only constant, something may happen, the choice that you make may lead you to a downward path of towards more negative energy. So again, change works both ways, just like water. Water can sink a boat and water can sail a boat. So wrapping up this last point, when we think about the opportunity for change, this is something that we really should consider. How do we want to shape our current life? Are there changes that we want to make that we haven't made yet? So this is something that I want to pose the question for you to think about, for you to contemplate. How do we want to shape our life? What are the changes that we want to make that lead us to a more conscious way of living? So let's recap what we talked about today. The purpose of this video is to help us, or give us the opportunity to contemplate on the topic of reincarnation. So the 4 things that we talk about are the evolutionary process of the soul, spirit, or energy. What if reincarnation is not just a cycle of life and death, but a continuous process of spiritual, soul, or energy evolution? Number 2, let's reflect on the human progress. When we look back at history, can we see signs of progress in our collective consciousness? And does that imply some form of reincarnation, where each reincarnation is an opportunity to move towards a higher level of consciousness? Number 3, the universe and balance. If the universe has its way to balance itself with harmony, do we see reincarnation plays a part to this fairness and harmony? Number 4, the opportunity for growth. If reincarnation is implied, thus each time that we are reincarnated is an opportunity for us to make change of what we have done previously, and also implies that it is an opportunity for growth. So finally, what do you think? Could reincarnation be part of a greater journey towards balance, growth, and enlightenment? So what do you think? I would really love to hear your comment. Could reincarnation be a part of a greater journey towards love, growth, enlightenment, and harmony? What do you think? And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, I would really appreciate that. If you find any value at all, please hit the subscribe button, and see you next time.